When you're setting up a church service or a live stream worship event, the pressure isn't just about getting a crisp picture, it's about finding a camera that will actually run the whole day without you having to babysit it. You want something that lets you focus on the sermon, not on fiddling with zoom knobs while the congregation watches. That hesitation dash, will this thing track the speaker reliably? Will the video stay smooth in a dim sanctuary? Is exactly why a lot of folks end up with either an overpriced broadcast rig or a cheap cam that drops out at the first low-light scene. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Tenveo NDI PTZ Camera Bundle tries to bridge that gap. It ships with a 7-inch LCD controller that lets you see 4 camera angles at once, an AI-driven auto-tracking system, and a full set of connections: SDI, HDMI, USB 3.0, and PoE Ethernet, so you can feed the video straight into most switchers or streaming platforms. In practice, the real question is how well those promises hold up when you actually have a choir moving, a preacher roaming the stage, and lights that dip low between songs. First, let's talk about who this camera is built for. If you're a worship team that already has a video switcher and you need a single camera that can handle both static shots and dynamic, speaker-following shots, the Tenveo bundle makes sense. The AI tracking works by recognizing human shapes and following them across the frame, which means you can set a speaker at the podium and let the camera stay locked on them as they walk to the front. For churches that don't have a dedicated camera operator for every service, this auto-tracking can save a lot of manpower. On the other hand, if you're a hobbyist who just wants a simple webcam-style cam for occasional live streams, the bundle might be overkill. The 30 optical zoom plus an extra 8 digital stretch is impressive on paper, but in a typical sanctuary the zoom is more about getting close-ups of a speaker at the front rather than hunting for detail across the entire room. For a small room or a home studio, that range can feel unnecessary and you'll be paying for features you'll never use. Now, onto the practical strengths. The first thing most installers notice is the ease of wiring. The camera's RJ45 PoE input means you can power the unit and transmit the video signal over a single Ethernet cable. In a church where you already have a network backbone, running one cable to the camera is far simpler than juggling separate power, SDI, and HDMI runs. The built-in IP scanning tool also helps you locate the camera on your network without digging through menus, which cuts down the setup time to under 10 minutes even for someone who isn't an IT specialist. The auto-tracking AI is another highlight, but only if you give it a clean, well-lit environment. In a brightly lit sanctuary with minimal backlighting, the camera locks onto the speaker quickly and keeps the focus steady as they move. The 7-inch LCD controller displays 4 live feeds, so you can switch between the PTZ view and a static backup camera without having to look at a separate monitor. That multitasking ability is a real workflow saver when you have a live stream director juggling song transitions and sermon footage. Low light behavior, however, is where the camera shows its limits. The sensor does a respectable job down to about 1 lux, but anything darker like a candlelit communion table or a dimly lit prayer corner will introduce some noise and the auto-tracking can lose confidence, switching to a slower, less precise focus mode. If your service relies on dramatic lighting cues, you may need to add a secondary light source or rely on a manual operator for those moments. Stabilization isn't a concern for a mounted PTZ, but the smoothness of the pan and tilt motions is worth noting. Tenveo's motorized system feels fluid, with no noticeable jitter when you command a slow pan across the altar. The controller lets you set acceleration curves, so you can program a gentle sweep for a contemplative song or a quicker pull for a dynamic worship moment. That flexibility translates directly into a more professional-looking broadcast, because abrupt camera movements can be jarring to viewers. Battery confidence isn't really on the table here, since the unit is meant to be powered via PoE. That does mean you need a reliable PoE switch or injector, but for most churches that already run networked lighting or sound gear, adding power to the camera is a small price to pay for the removed clutter of a separate power adapter. Who should skip this bundle? If you already own a PTZ camera with a proven auto-track system and just need a controller, buying the Tenveo kit may duplicate what you already have. Likewise, if your venue is extremely small, say under 300 SQFT, the 30 optical zoom is excessive, and a single fixed lens cam would be cheaper and simpler. Finally, if you're planning to stream to multiple platforms simultaneously and need separate HDMI outputs for each, you'll find that the Tenveo only offers